Taguna samandai, taguna samabai, ramatuma wari one, takna sambanjai, tagasamakarndai, tagasamakarbay, niwambanjai, piriwari revirev. Joglen, joglen, joglen by what? Bailen.
Okay, so I recently just went to South Africa for what's called the Baldwin's Room Artist Residency, and that was put together by a writer and a filmmaker named Darnell Lamont Walker, who has a company called Passport Required. And the purpose of the residency was to essentially take African American artists out of the U.S. and put them into Africa and into a space where they could create and be fueled by the culture of Africa. So, like I said, it was about taking an African American artist out of America and seeing what happened to them creatively, or what inspired them creatively in Africa, and really to deconstruct a lot of the things that we've learned as African Americans who've never been to Africa or visited Africa, to mainly deconstruct what we've learned about Africa in general. And so, I mean, Africa is a continent, it's a very dense place. And I literally just got a chance to experience South Africa for a week. So I intend to go back and explore the entire continent, because, I mean, it's no way that you could really internalize everything about the continent in 1 week. But South Africa was a beautiful place. I felt at home. And I was truly inspired by the artists there and just by the culture, and it was wonderful to take that in for a week. I was honored to have been chosen for that.
Okay,
A lot of what I see back home in terms of the commentary that people have centered around social injustice, and how at this point people feel like if you're silent about certain issues surrounding like racial injustice or anything just that's wrapped up in the African American experience currently, they feel like if you're silent about it, you're being weak, you're not, holding your weight. But I'm a person that views silence differently, and for me, I kind of equate it to, when I talk to people about it, it's kind of like when an animal is going in for the kill, does the animal make noise? The animal is silent, right? So sometimes silence means strategy is happening. People are strategizing. And so there's a time for that, and there's a time when there needs to be more happening, where, the noise and shouting and chanting where that's necessary. I also believe that people can operate in both spaces. There's a group that may be strategizing while the other people are on the front line. So this was mainly about giving people space to be who they are and to internalize what's going on the way they would like to, and not to just label people as weak just because they're not speaking up about something the way that you want them to, or the way that they are, or the way that you are. And this one was more of a fun piece here. It's called Back to Africa. And I said I put I'm home on this because everyone calls Africa the motherland, right? And I call my mom my mom or whatever, so it's kind of like I'm speaking to Africa, like mom, home, you know what I'm saying? And so here, I don't know if you see the detail in the gold teeth in the mouth, but I did one of the teeth, South Africa's flag. And then here we have the red, white, and blue, which is like, it signifies America, which is, my primary roots in terms of where I was born and raised. And so this is pretty simple and straightforward. It's just like, mom home. So me leaving, the X represents me leaving America for a period of time and just coming back to where my roots are genetically speaking. My family, actually my brother had a chance to get his DNA analyzed, and through him I was able to find out where most of my family comes from. Senegal is one spot, Nigeria, Ivory Coast, Ghana. I mean, it's like a dense list, but 80% African. So yes. So those were the two pieces that I created while I was there. And then after that, throughout the week, I just shot footage of many of the places that I visited. I went to Braamfontein. I primarily stayed in the Emmolei precinct, which is an up-and-coming arts district. There's a lot of rich artistic things going on there culturally. I really love the people there, the food. You have a lot of different choices. I really didn't think about any American food or any part of American way of life while I was there. I also did a lot of photography. That's kind of like a hobby that I don't really advertise as much, but photography is also one thing that I use to make sense of the world around me outside of music. And so I took a lot of pictures. I have a favorite picture that locals would come up to me speaking Zulu because they thought I was from South Africa. And I told her I was a little embarrassed to say that I'm American because it's like, I feel like I should know more. Even though most of my heritage as far as Africa is concerned came from the west part of Africa, I still feel like as a whole, Africa, the entire continent, is just a part of my roots. And it was very, a little embarrassing in a way to have people approach me speaking Zulu and I'm not able to like respond or interact in that way. But I also had to take a step back and reevaluate that because, I can't change that I was born in America. And I am proud of Black culture here. And so, we talked a little bit about that, and I also talked to her about the musicality of the language in South Africa and how when people spoke to me, it sounded like they were singing to me. So it's the languages there are very tonal. And so I talked to her about possibly coming back to capture that. And I believe there's like 11 different languages in South Africa, so capturing all of those different languages and seeing how that comes together musically. I don't know what I would do with it yet, but we talked about that. And we also talked about the racial tensions in Johannesburg and how they're very similar to what's going on here in South Africa, with apartheid really still being fresh. It literally occurred maybe like almost 20 something years ago. So we talked about the progress that's happening in Johannesburg with regards to racial tensions compared to where we are in America, and how similar they are. And she just gave me a breakdown even of how there's a stark difference between like the Zulus and I think Sotho, and how they clash, and how colonialism kind of created a divide amongst the different tribes and all that kind of stuff. And it was really wild to just hear. We learn about these things at the surface level here, depending on where you go to school, but it was just wild to me. And so it was cool to be enlightened and to discuss with someone who's actually a part of the culture, who lives there, who sleeps, eats and breathes South Africa every day, and to find a common thread, although we are thousands of miles apart. So that was really dope.
What is your opinion about